You're listening to Grindhouse Courthouse. We put movies on trial to determine whether or not a film has committed too many movie misdemeanors to be considered viewable. Please rise for the honorable judge this episode.
Okay. Let's get the energy in here, guys. Let's bring up this energy. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Grindhouse Courthouse. This week, I'm the judge, which means that until I finish my introduction, I can ramble about whatever I want. Sahara is a 2005 film based around a series of novels from Clive Cussler. It was directed by Breck Eisner and stars Matthew McConaughey, Steve Zahn, and Penelope Cruz. The plot centers around two treasure hunters and a World Health Organization doctor who team up to find a lost American Civil War ironclad warship in the middle of the Sahara Desert. No, you didn't hear me wrong. This movie is primarily about how a bunch of good old boys from down south took valuable resources away from the war effort and straight into the middle of a fucking African desert. Also, there are a bunch of other characters and subplots that deal with corporate malfeasance, civilian life during times of war, poisoning literally the entire planet's water supply, and also a guy who had a boat at the start of the movie had his boat destroyed, and he doesn't have a boat, so he wants his boat back. And also, there may or may not be child soldiers in this movie. Joining me today as both the prosecution and a die-hard Clive Cussler fanatic, we have Dylan.
Hell yeah, what up?
Joining me today as both the defense and someone who appreciates good cinema, we have Matthew.
What's up?
Joining me today as both the jury and hapless bystander who is going to help me piece together what this movie is about, we have Dave.
Hello.
Also, Adam's here.
Hey.
Let's start with some opening statements. Now, I don't know which one of you goons is prepared the most, but we'll start with whoever's brave enough to lead.
I'll go ahead. I'm fairly confident. So, as the highly esteemed, handsome judge so cogently pointed out, this is a complex film that stitches together multiple narratives, kind of like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Maybe even a little bit more adeptly than 2001: A Space Odyssey. So Sahara is this highly skilled adaptation of the book by the same name, written by the author and underwater adventurer Clive Cussler. The 11th installment of the Dirk Pitt series, no relation to Brad, Sahara joins the ranks of other literary masterpieces like Pacific Vortex, The Mediterranean, Iceberg, Raise the Titanic, Vixen, Night Probe, Deep Six, Cyclops, Treasure, Dragon, Inca Gold, Shockwave, Flood Tide, Atlantis Found, Valhalla Rising, Trojan Odyssey, Black Wind, Treasure of Khan, Arctic Drift, Crescent Dawn, Poseidon's Arrow, Havana Storm, Odessa Sea, and Celtic Empire. We sadly lost Clive Cussler in 2020, but if you think that stopped him from publishing more books, you must have a busted up brain, because he has not one, not two, not three, but 4 books coming out in 2021. The Serpent's Eye, The Saboteur, Fast Ice, and the final installment of the Dirk Pitt series, The Devil's Sea, until at least there's more books in the Dirk Pitt series. So if you like any of these other 25 books, Sahara is the movie for you. Oh yeah, and it's about a treasure hunt.
Holy shit.
Thank you. Very, very succinct. I have a feeling that we're going to be focusing a lot on the movie's merits and not just whatever the fuck Clive Cussler was thinking when he wrote this film. Matthew, your opening statements, please.
What the fuck did I just listen to? Oh my god. I feel like the same statement could be used for my prosecution of this crap heap of a movie. I'm just at a loss for words about this garbage. Like, you know, Judge, we spent a lot of time recently talking about Ethan Hunt and the Impossible Mission Force, and some might say we talk about them too much, about how ridiculous every scene is, how lazy they are, how little they think of their audience. I didn't think I would miss all of that until I saw Sahara. And by the way, I think that's how it's pronounced. Defense.
Let us take a second now to all simultaneously pronounce the title of this film.
Sahara.
Sahara.
Sahara. Nailed it.
Okay, we're all nailed it. Please continue.
Thank you, Judge. But you know, the thing about those Mission Impossible movies is at least they seem to know what they are. Sahara has no idea what it is. Is this like an Indiana Jones movie? Is it James Bond? Is it a Ken Burns documentary about the American Civil War? I have no clue. It certainly can't be a rom-com because we don't see Matthew McConaughey's nipples nearly enough for that. I just have no idea what this movie is, and the movie doesn't know what it is either. Now, Judge, members of the jury, you are beautiful, smart, voluptuous people with lots of things to do in your life. Don't waste your time with this garbage movie. This movie is dumb. Don't watch it. Thank you.
To the point.
Powerful words. Powerful words. Direct and to the point. I think I know which way I'm leaning based off that stirring opening statement, but let's dive into some evidence here. Who's presenting? Because the first one, we're talking about adventure starting / plague destroying Africa. I didn't see any of this, so I don't know anything about it.
So I guess we could start off with, the prologue of the movie, which basically goes back to the American Civil War. And we're in this naval battle where they have this clunky ironclad ship tank thing. And it's in this battle. And then a bunch of explosions happen. And then they board it up and sail for Africa. Or something. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. So then we get into the real start of the movie. There is a plague happening in Mali. There are some treasure hunters. There's a warlord happening. I don't know what's happening in this movie right from the start here. Defense, can you make heads or tails of this from the get-go?
Yeah, it's super simple. I don't understand why you can't wrap your mind around it. There's a Civil War ironclad that goes missing in the Sahara Desert sometime in the 1860s. 150 years later, there's an ongoing civil war. And Don Cheadle, or somebody who looks kind of like Don Cheadle, I don't remember who it was exactly now, he is an African warlord. They're trying to cover up a plague outbreak, and Penelope Cruz is a World Health Organization official who's investigating this plague outbreak. Also, there's a French businessman who's hiding but he's hiding radioactive waste, and this is what's causing the plague outbreak. Also, there's a rebel group that look like the dudes from the beginning of The Mummy, and they're fighting the general. Also, Matthew McConaughey and his special needs buddy are trying to find this lost ship. What's so hard to understand about that?
My
Can
mistake.
we get a quick setup on the guy who had a boat and then loses his boat? Because I feel like that's going to be really important to help everybody's understanding.
Yes, this guy is Clive Cussler, played by William H. Macy with the name James Sandecker. He's actually the boss of the real-life business, Numa, that Clive Cussler owns to discover, shipwrecks. Because the only way to finance 25 fucking books is to go and find a goddamn treasure and publish them. Otherwise, it's impossible. So you gotta have a side hustle. Anyway, William H. Macy's got a boat, and they're looking for this ironclad. We learn a little bit about the protagonist, Dirk Pitt, through a series of newspaper clippings. So we always talk about show, don't say in movies. This is the epitome of showing, not saying. So we learn about Dirk Pitt. He's this naval dude who went to Naval Academy with his best bud, Al Giordano. Al Giordano has a learning disability. And so Dirk Pitt brings him along on these adventures to give him a taste of what normal life is like. There's also a second comedic relief in the character of Rudy Gunn, played by Rainn Wilson. But he's the other kind of comedic relief because he's the smart guy. So the whole setup is basically they're trying to find this ironclad, this old Civil War ironclad ship. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And then trouble ensues, I guess. I don't know. It's so convoluted. Apparently you need to have a PhD in history in order to understand any of the things that happen in this movie or how all these pieces fit together. Because really there are 8 different movies in this thing. How do you stitch them all together? It's ridiculous.
I'll wait for you to stitch them all together.
I mean,
I will not.
you
It's
watch
not my job to
Sahara,
stick 'em together.
that's how you stitch together.
Granted,
Sorry, I think you mean Sahara.
Sahara seems like a very busy film. I think we can all agree with that. Now, are there any other points you want to make about the beginning of the adventure and the plague before we move on to maybe some chase scenes, maybe some people fighting around, maybe some wells? I don't know. Just to throw out some words off the top of my head.
Oh my god. So
Tell me about boat chases. I want to know more about boats. What about the guy who lost his boat?
So for some reason there's this boat scene. They're traveling down the Niger River, and parted ways with Penelope Cruz, with Ava Rojas, and then some military officials just kind of casually come up to the boat, and Matthew McConaughey and his special needs friend decide that they have to just escape immediately instead of just talking to them calmly. And then there's a boat chase, and they start shooting at them, and there's a bunch of trouble and shenanigans ensue, and they blow up the boat, and William H. Macy's real sad about it. Oh my God. He's so sad. And that's really where the heart of this movie is, which is ultimately pretty empty and pretty sad.
Okay, but the reason the boat chase happens is because they think that. So the whole thing you have to understand is the relationship between Dirk Pitt and Ava Rojas. So Ava Rojas is played by Penelope Cruz. So she is being threatened by brown people, and this white guy has to come save her. Classic story. Anyway,
It's pretty heroic. It's pretty heroic.
so anyway, Dirk Pitt saves her from these guys who are trying to kill her for, investigating the plague that's breaking out. And that puts him on the shit list of the evil dictator from, I think, the Congo. I can't remember. Or maybe Nigeria. I can't remember which exact country he's a dictator of. Mali? Okay.
I think it's Mali.
And so they don't care about Dirk Pitt so much. He's just trying to find a treasure, and they're like, whatever, do what you're gonna do. They're worried about this woman who's going to let the cat out of the bag about this plague that they're trying to keep under wraps. And that's why the boat chase ensues, because they think she's on the boat, or she is on the boat with them. Anyway, that just explains why that happened, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. But with this, it's quite clear.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely clear. Like it's crystal clear. Otherwise, the whole movie falls apart right after this.
Yeah,
right?
you can't just have a boat in a movie and then have it be destroyed later without saying why the boat was destroyed. That's just bad screenwriting. Quick question: how many screenwriters were on this movie?
There were, by my count, there are at least 10, and then 4 get credited at the end. And we all know that the value of a movie goes up in direct correlation with how many screenwriters you have. So therefore, this must be just the pinnacle of cinema. This is the defense already compared this to 2001: A Space Odyssey. That gives you that tells you all you need to know right there. There are so many screenwriters on this thing that Clive Cussler sued the production company while this movie was, before the movie even got released. He sued them because of script rewrites, or he wasn't consulted enough, or they didn't have enough cannibals in the script or something. I looked up the summary of the book that this came from, and there are a bunch of cannibals in it. And apparently that was like a bridge too far for this movie. He had to cut that part out, and maybe that's what he's so upset about. So this movie, there's really 8 different movies in this thing, and none of them are interesting on their own.
But there's a boat in it, though. Vince, do you have anything to say for yourself?
First off, it takes 10 writers to encapsulate the brilliance that is Clive Cussler's writing. One man or woman cannot simply just adapt a Clive Cussler work or a Clive Cussler joint into a movie. It's not possible. Mortal men are not capable of such a task. So yes, it takes a team. It takes a village to write or adapt a Clive Cussler book into a movie. But hey, they did it. And yeah, Clive Cussler had some pretty lofty expectations, but guess what? They achieved them. The movie came out. It was a smash hit. It made the career of unknown Matthew McConaughey and Penelope Cruz. Who ever heard of them before 2000?
What about Steve Zahn?
Steve Zahn?
How's Steve Zahn's career doing?
Steve Zahn's career is doing exactly as well as it should be right now. That's what I get.
Straight up after this movie. Steve Zahn's career, think about it. Steve Zahn was in Titanic after this. He was in Godfather Part 1 and 2 right after this.
That's right.
Ben-Hur.
I forgot about that.
Spartacus.
The 2010 Ben-Hur.
Citizen
right?
Kane.
You're not talking about...
No, the originals. Yeah. He's in all the originals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Steve Zahn was such a prolific actor.
Yeah, he directed Parasite. That Korean movie that won last year. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's pretty good.
I know.
Way to go, Steve Zahn. Steve, if you're out there, congratulations.
Can we talk about Steve Zahn for a second here? We
please,
need to talk about
yes,
this,
please.
Yeah, the actual Steve Zahn, because
The real Steve Zahn? I don't know if any of us know the real
Does
Steve
Steve Zahn know the
Please
real Steve Zahn?
Whoever's editing this, you be prepared to cut this whole thing out, this whole section out, because we need to talk. We need to talk about this guy.
Oh
He's
shit!
like,
Are we gonna get sued for libel on this?
I saw Steve Zahn kill a man in broad daylight. And he looked at me and he said, "You're next." And I ran so fast.
This was also a Malaysian horror story.
in this movie, he's like,
Sorry, Matt. Go on.
oh god, I can't. We haven't.
Go on.
We haven't even said anything offensive about him yet. But like, he's like, okay, how about we put this? He's like Simple Jack from Tropic Thunder.
Never go full Simple Jack.
Because at some point it's just like I'm like deeply uncomfortable by some of the lines that they like try to play off, where he just kind of like flatly says, "My dad collects coins. I lost my hat." It's this weird thing. And then at other times he's like this brilliant mechanic who's like MacGyvering together a plane into like a hang glider or something. It's just ridiculous. I don't know what to make of this guy. And it goes back to the point that there are like 10 different movies in here and 12 different comic reliefs. And even in Steve Zahn, they just kind of mashed them all together, and I'm not sure what to make of it. And I feel kind of uncomfortable with some of the parts of it. So
Is this the worst depiction of autism ever committed to film? Yes or no?
We got I Am Sam. We got What's Eating Gilbert Grape. We got all of Matt Damon's career. We got
Hey, The Martian was all right. Maybe, kind of. I don't know. You guys like Ridley Scott? He's only made like one good movie. Anyways, what's important here is this Steve Zahn character. It sounds like they didn't really know what they were doing with him because he's all over the map.
exactly. They don't know what they're doing with him. And for a while they have two comic reliefs, like plucky comic reliefs, like doing shenanigans. Like Rainn Wilson is there for a little bit too. And then at some point the movie just gets tired of him and ships him off in a truck full of goats. And you see him like in the one or two scenes like later where he's hanging out with William H. Macy. They're commiserating over how sad he is about his boat. But like this movie just doesn't know what it's doing throughout the entire thing.
Your Honor, I think the prosecution is mistaking a sprawling historic epic for a convoluted plot. What's actually happening is there's multiple stories converging and diverging. It's what happens with a masterpiece like this. Like, you can't just expect these characters to stick around for the whole story. They got their own thing going on.
So you're saying that in any good work of cinema, it's important for characters that were in the first half to not be in the second half.
I think it's essential.
Exactly.
Essential. Noted. At this point, I'd like to call for a recess and open this up to the jury. I see them chomping at the bit. I haven't allowed them to speak until now, but I think they're ready. Dave, do you have any questions?
I'm confused and not confused at the same time. It's a problem. I got the general idea of the story start, I believe.
Do you?
They're on an adventure to find this boat, but there's other shit going on and then a boat chase.
William H. Macy's boat.
This boat chase really threw me off.
That's the boat they're looking
No.
for, right? The ironclad warship is just incidental.
No, the ironclad warship is like the inciting incident, and then they don't talk about it for about an hour in the middle of the movie, and then it shows up again at the very end. Yeah, I don't want to necessarily spoil it just yet, but like,
So it ties it all together is what you're saying.
no, that's not what I'm saying. It doesn't tie anything together.
That's all I heard right there was that it comes full circle. And
It's
the
tied
ironclad
together
is
as well
the
as
bow on top.
Steve Zahn's tie at the beginning of this thing because he can't dress himself. We forgot to mention that part of this movie.
Hey man, he's just a cargo short. He's a cargo short and muscle shirt kind of guy, all right? He doesn't like wearing suits.
Can we talk about Matthew McConaughey?
Sure.
How is he in this movie? Because this is early 2000s, right? Or like mid 2000s, where Matthew McConaughey
the year
was
of our
coming
Lord
off
2005, same as Lord of War.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matthew McConaughey was coming off of like a bunch of rom-coms. So is he playing that character in this film? Is Matthew McConaughey the charming guy that gets the girl all the time? Like, what's his character? Who is Dirk Pitt?
How much sex does Dirk Pitt have?
He's the coolest kind of character in that he knows everything. He knows all about solar plants. He knows all about cars from 1946, nuclear explosions, chemical waste, how to fly a helicopter. He knows about bulletproof boats. He knows about ironclad boats, obviously. He knows how to rebuild a cannonball. He knows how to convert an old airplane into a sweet roller coaster looking kind of paraglider thing. So just that really awesome guy that everyone loves who knows everything about everything, which is why he can have a sidekick like
Some guy that has a lot of stories.
yeah, why he can have a sidekick like Steve Zahn. And
Another read on that
Sounds
is
fucking insufferable.
and in terms of
Yeah,
his
he could be-
character, it's like a cross between Dallas Buyers Club and like True Detective, kind of like he's kind of in between.
oh God.
So time is a flat circle. All right, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
No, he's not. You know how many times he says "all right" in this movie? Like once. Like if I'm going to see a Matthew McConaughey movie, there are two things I want to have happen. I want him to say "all right," and I want to see his nipples.
Naturally.
I hardly get any of that in this movie.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a smarmy, like insufferable know-it-all jerk who's kind of like his hair is always like wet for some reason. Like in every
So
scene,
the-
like it's just he just got out of the river.
The real Matthew McConaughey stars in this film, is what you're saying.
Essentially, apparently, in the way that he promoted this movie is that he took his RV and just drove around the United States for months and just told people to watch it, which really makes you wonder.
Honestly, that would have worked on me. If Matthew McConaughey rolled up to my house and was like, "You see this movie," I'd do it. I would.
So it's a wonder why. Let me grab some numbers here. What is how much did this thing cost? The gross was 122 million, but it cost 160 million. It is on the list of most or like the losingest box office bombs ever. It's up there
that
with
must
like
reflect, yeah, like
But don't worry, Breck went on to direct The Last Witch Hunter, and that made money.
did it?
Yeah, so
Yeah, Brett-
how do you
Brett-
explain that, Matt?
Did it?
I mean we haven't even have we even mentioned Breck, which what a name by the way, Breck Eisner, which is Michael Eisner's son, CEO of Disney. That's the only reason that he got involved with this stupid movie. They just like, oh, you're the
Are
son
you
of.
sure it wasn't a passion project for him? Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. It's just like, oh, your dad is one of the most powerful people in Hollywood and the world. Sure, I'll just do whatever you say. And this is the result. A turd.
All right. Any other questions?
I need to learn more about this movie. I've already forgotten it, by the way. So I'm curious
Exactly.
what happens for the climax.
So we're hearing a lot in this court about all the varied storylines and how some of them lead into each other, but we still really haven't heard anything about the French guy or the poisoning. And really, I want to know if this guy gets his boat back. So if I could compel you, force you, if you will, can you just tell me how all of this stuff ties together when it comes together in the movie? Or is it all just a series of parallel plot lines that just run out into infinity?
Well, it's mostly just a series of parallel plot lines, and then there's like a weird interdimensional shift that kind of like splices them all together at the very end, and they think that it ties them all together. I forgot that there was a solar plant and like a James Bond villain until you mentioned it just now. So apparently the plague or the disease or whatever is not a plague, but in fact pollution caused by this solar plant that they're using to evaporate toxic waste, but they're also putting it in the ground and poisoning the water.
Wait, so it's they're doing both?
I don't know.
Putting it in the air and the ground?
No.
Yeah,
no.
so
they are buying up so much. I think it's mostly nuclear waste actually. That they don't have the time to burn it all. Because what they're doing with this massive solar array is burning off this toxic waste, which is the cleanest way to get rid of toxic waste, as everyone knows. Same goes for like garbage and stuff. You just burn it.
Yeah,
and it's gone.
We know that.
Yeah, just go in your back.
Everyone listening knows that. Yeah.
Okay.
Just go in your backyard and burn all of your garbage in a trash can.
All of
That's
it.
the most. Yeah.
Get rid of it. Okay, so you burn.
I've got all these old batteries and plastics.
Burn
Is
'em.
that safe too?
Burn them.
Everything.
inside in a close your windows and burn them. So
Oh yeah, it doesn't hit the ozone that way.
but he's gotten so much of this toxic waste that he has to store it underground, and the nuclear waste is leaching into the water supply in the aquifers, underwater aquifers, and that's how it's poisoning the villagers who look exactly like the tribe from the beginning of The Mummy.
And so the tribe is getting poisoned.
Right.
What does that have to do with the boat that got destroyed?
Okay.
Nothing. Nothing. It doesn't have to do any with it at all. So
You
they're
keep
just
referencing this boat that got destroyed. Do you mean the boat that the Mali Defense Forces blow up? That they have to jump off of?
Yeah, that's the boat that they care about in this movie, right? They wouldn't release a movie with 2 boats that are important to the plot, would they?
that would be too confusing.
No, there's 3 boats.
What?
Because there's the one William H. Macy is on, there's the one they're trying to find, and then there's the one that blows up. And there's a hypothetical 4th boat that the U.S. government has to give William H. Macy for something I can't remember what.
Do we see this hypothetical 4th
We do
boat
not.
on
We
film
do
at
not
any time?
see it.
We do not.
Okay.
They set it up.
Okay,
They set
noted.
it up for all those sequels, because there are 80 books to pluck from.
So
Yeah.
you're saying that we've got some sort of inadvertent ghost ship situation forming here with this force boat, which is
Oh,
suddenly
ghost ship.
way more interesting to me than anything else. Like the military or the general or the freedom fighters. How do the freedom fighters? What do they have to do with William H. Macy's boat that got destroyed? How do they factor into all this?
So they're kind of like in the way of Steve Zahn and Matthew McConaughey when they're in their like quadruple propellered luxury yacht just blasting through these like humble villagers who are in their way. These villagers who make like 10 cents a day and like their entire livelihood is based on this rickety little boat. So these 2 are just being super cool guys and just blasting through, just firing machine guns blindly, decimating villages along the way. So the freedom fighters, they're working with those guys. They're gonna help those guys.
Okay, all right. I mean that makes sense. How does the World Health Organization factor in to any of this? They're investigating the plague, which is actually just radiation, which like anybody would have been able to figure out immediately and not misidentify as a plague, right?
Yeah, we never said she's a good doctor.
we do notice that, like, I mean, maybe this is not so apparent in 2005 or whatever this was released, but she's like investigating a deadly infectious plague, or so they think it is. And she's just coming up to villagers, no mask, no gloves, no nothing. She's just like touching their eyeballs, putting her hands in their mouths and just like checking stuff out.
Like a doctor would.
No big deal at all. Yeah, as a doctor would. So I don't know why the World Health Organization would send like an anti-masker, an anti-vasker to go investigate a plague. That might be the most ridiculous thing.
Because they knew it was radiation?
I don't know.
Strange. It doesn't make any sense.
I think you still need a mask if it's radiation.
Yes, it just has to be made out of lead.
Yeah.
I think you can get those at Chopper's Drug Mart.
I lead line most things in my life. Just to keep myself safe from radiation. So there's a ton of things going on, a lot, and whether or not it's sort of an intricate tapestry or jumble of ideas thrown onto the ground and then somehow assembled into a film is maybe up to interpretation. At some point, certainly, this movie ends, I'm assuming.
Eventually.
But there's probably at least some of the plot points are resolved. So starting wherever it feels best, run me through the end of this movie.
Okay. I'll take a stab at this. So once they discover this solar plant, and there's this James Bond villain who, I mean, his plot is to destroy the world or something like that. I don't know. There's a solar plant, and I think he is going to blow up the plant in order to cover up the evidence. Like, I guess they found out their scheme, so he's going to blow it up to cover things up. But if he blows it up, then they won't be able to contain it. So now Dirk and his buddy and Penelope Cruz have to stop him from blowing up the plant. And essentially there's a
Hang on.
There's a
I
fight.
gotta clarify.
I'm so okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
Please
first off,
clarify, because I'm so confused.
Ava Rojas, played by Penelope Cruz, she's kidnapped by the Bedouin tribes who are fighting against the government, who are the ones who are suffering most directly from the nuclear waste. Living with the villagers, that's when she makes the breakthrough through ancient cave paintings that
Oh my god, okay. I forgot to mention that. Yes.
There's
Tell me more about these ancient cave paintings.
So these ancient caves paintings were painted like 2 weeks ago by the guys who live there. There's some older ones from like 150 years ago, but it's the same style. It's Africa, whatever. It's ancient, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, I don't know exactly if that's they realize that the boat is in the vicinity, but they also learn through basically talking with the tribal elders and things that the illness is coming from the radioactive plant. They realize that it's already leached into the aquifers, that it's going to spill beyond the borders of Mali, so they'll no longer be able to keep this under wraps, and in fact is ultimately going to spill into the ocean and basically decimate the entire planet's water supply based on projected maps.
Sahara deals with...
Excuse me, it's Sahara.
Level
Sahara.
Event. Sahara, the 2005 film, deals with an extinction level event.
Yes.
Dirk Pitt has to save the literal planet.
Oh yeah.
No, he has to save the ocean, which is more important than the planet.
No, he has to save in the way the movie presents it, William H. Macy is giving this whole exploit of how this is all going to work, and he's telling some government official from the CIA or something like that, and he's just completely nonplussed, has no reaction in his face when he's describing all of that until he says, and then it'll get to New York, and then he just like flips the table. He's like, "What, New York? Oh my God, we actually have to stop this now. Who cares about Africa, but New York? Oh no." So then that's when Dirk Pitt has to jump in and save the world.
Right.
And
the reason the evil French guy is going to destroy his own nuclear waste plant is to cover the evidence. Because he knows this is no longer containable. He thinks that the dictator, he's a dictator in Africa. So he works with him because he lets him get away with stuff, but he's not loyal to him. So he's just going to basically destroy the plant, wash his hands of the whole problem, and claim ignorance and just get away with it. That's his goal. That's why he's going to blow up his own plant.
And everyone knows that when you blow something up, that therefore destroys all of the evidence.
Yes.
You will have no idea. Nothing in the debris will tell you that this was a solar plant or there was any nuclear waste there. So,
well, in this universe, the WHO doesn't know about masks and gloves. So maybe people don't actually know how to, forensic their way into an answer there. Maybe the French guy is the smartest guy in the movie. We'll never know because you'll never tell me.
Nope.
Now, so they're at the solar farm and they're blowing stuff up. How does this tie into William H. Macy's boat?
He continues to be sad and just totally despondent about the boat. I miss that boat so much. So many memories on that boat. Just cruising along impoverished areas with my huge yacht. Just going, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So how does this ultimately, how does this thing end? So they get away from this whole episode of the shenanigans, the fight at the nuclear plant, and this warlord is in his helicopter and he's chasing after Matthew McConaughey and Steve Zahn and Penelope Cruz. And I guess their response to this is that Steve Zahn is going to throw sticks of dynamite out of their vehicle and shoot them with a rifle because he's apparently an expert shot as well. And as they're escaping from this, he's blowing up all of these sticks of dynamite in the desert. Then lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, he unearths from the sand this 150-year-old Civil War ironclad ship. And amazingly, the dynamite only blows the sand off of it and doesn't damage the boat at all. This 150-year-old ship is completely intact, completely fine. And oh boy, I wonder if those cannons work. We're about to find out.
Those 150-year-old cannons that haven't been maintained or fired in quite a while.
150 years.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
150 years, in fact.
Well, they were buried, right? They had no erosion from
But
anything else.
Sand can get into things because they're in the desert.
God, I hate sand. It's coarse, it's rough, it gets everywhere.
Yeah, so like a Wicked movie, it pauses that plot to resolve the other plot and then unpauses the plot to finish out the movie. I don't know what's the problem here. Everyone's complaining a whole bunch. You got two movies for the price of one, basically. You got a sweet treasure hunt movie and a environmentalist movie. Kind of like Clive Cussler.
Let's open the floor to some questions here, because I think we've all got a couple. Adam, let's start with you.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. I want to go back to the power plant, the solar plant.
Sure.
So they succeed, right? Like it doesn't blow up.
Right.
But isn't the material still leaking into the water? Isn't it still a threat? So that's question one.
Hold on. No, question one should be, why is a solar plant producing nuclear waste?
No, it's burning. It's burning nuclear waste that they ship in from other places.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They spend like hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to take their nuclear waste in barrels and then move it into the desert where they can shoot sun rays at it.
Yeah.
Ineffectively. That's what's happening.
But they just don't know how to store it. So if the company did their due diligence and they had like a better protocol for shipping in nuclear waste and storing it, none of this would be a problem, right?
They'd probably win a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, it would have saved the world.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, so my first question is, do they succeed there? Do they stop the nuclear waste from leaking into Africa's water stream and eventually potentially New York and destroying the world? And then second, how does one cannon with 3 people defeat a general and his army in the desert?
That is a great.
How big is the army?
Standard African size.
So 30 guys with guns they scavenged or more?
Maybe a little bit more.
I want to make a child soldier joke here, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, we'll hold off on that.
Okay. So how big is his army is the question.
It's like 30 guys.
Yeah, they have a few jeeps, a few tanks,
So
I think.
easily defeated by a single cannon shot?
Yeah,
You said they've got like jeeps, any tanks, any helicopters, planes, jets?
Yeah, all those.
How improbable is this cannon defeating the general?
so
That's what I wanna
the
know.
general is in he's in a helicopter, and it's a fully equipped helicopter. It's got the missiles, it's got the guns, it's got all the bells and whistles and stuff. And wouldn't you know it, they just happened to be floating there in the air in the exact trajectory in which the one working cannon in this 150-year-old warship would be aimed at. And it's like hits it right on the mark. It goes right through the window of the helicopter, and then it just sits there, and then it explodes, which I don't know if that technology was in the Civil War, around in the Civil War.
I can't confirm if it was around in the Civil War, but I can confirm that is a well-known type of cannon shot. They call it the big old explodio big boomeroo. It's a technical term. It was developed by Charles Boomeroo in roughly the early 1800s.
Fascinating.
So ridiculous, essentially.
Yeah, and then so it gets into this helicopter and it explodes and it kills the bad guy, and then this entire standard African-sized army just kind of gives up because this like still buried 150-year-old thing with one cannon brought them to their knees. Like there was like, we can't fight with this. We can't stop this, and then the movie is over essentially.
Do they have any help from the rebels in this
Yeah,
scene?
where do the rebels come into play here? Because that's another plot point that I want to see resolved before the movie.
I too want to see it resolved.
Now that's where the child soldiers come in. So they're all like standing up on the top of the cliffs and they're looking down at the dictator's army. And this is what happens when you lead through fear and not respect. Upon the leader's death, the army no longer has any reason to continue the fight. So they just quit. And in terms of the cannon, like it's the Sahara, so it's very dry and things don't decay much. It's like Egypt. There's stuff that's around for millennia. So
Yeah, everyone knows that they find.
What would you know about any of that?
nothing. No reason. I'm just hanging out here in Nicaragua and like making jokes about Scientology and whatnot. So
Yeah, well, they deserve it. Another nautical connection there with Scientology. But, so, okay, the movie's over at this point, and they find the old boat.
Right.
The radioactive waste is cleaned up, or at least dealt with. The child soldiers are shown in a positive light as saving the day and protecting the nation. The World Health Organization is satisfied? Do we know how they feel at the end of the movie?
That's a good question. I don't know how they feel.
I'll take that as a no.
They assassinate the French businessman.
The World Health Organization assassinates. Well, we all knew that. That's fucking. We all knew that, right?
Yeah.
Audience, jury, prosecution, defense. We all knew that about the WHO.
Yep.
So at the end of the film, it sounds like William H. Macy doesn't get his boat back.
no, he gets a new boat. That's what the government gives him for having saved the world.
They give him his boat.
And Rainn Wilson gets a whole bunch of new computers.
Oh, so it is a happy ending.
So it
after
just
all.
goes to show you.
What does it show me?
You should do good things because the government will give you stuff if you do it.
It's a powerful message in 2021. I think it's Pretty powerful. Well, I think
It's like
I'm
JFK
satisfied.
said, it's like, ask not what you can do for your country, ask what your country can give to you if you save the world.
Or just New York or whatever. I don't know. That's the only city that seems to matter. So we reach the end of the movie, and the credits roll. I'm assuming there's some sort of resolution with the love subplot that no one mentioned.
Oh, the love subplot that didn't happen until the very end, when we still don't really get to see McConaughey's nipples like we were promised.
Fuck.
Exactly. So somehow, yeah. So he wins over the girl, and they're on the beach in Mexico or something like that, and then it sets up all of the sequels that we know and love. All of those, that big Dirk Pitt movie franchise that rivals any other franchise that we've ever heard of.
Inca Gold, Shockwave, Flood Tide, Atlantis Found, Valhalla Rising.
So we're here at the end of the movie. Now, we do still need to have closing statements, though I don't want those to go away. But before we jump into those, Jury, you got any questions? You got any problems that need to be resolved before we hear some closing statements?
It feels like they just put a nice bow on this. Like at the very end, they're just like, we got to wrap up story A, B, C, D, and let's just do it like this. I have no idea where I'm going with this one, to be honest.
It sounds like a giant adventure, this movie. That's all. This movie sounds like a giant adventure in the desert with lots of things going on, like gunfights, explosion, boats, like everything. Like, what doesn't this movie have? That's what I'm really curious.
A coherent story, anything compelling whatsoever.
A single flaw.
Yeah.
Any contradictions.
It's also really, we didn't mention this. It's like, it has that traffic Mexico filter on it where everything is kind of yellow and jaundicey, because apparently that's what you have to do for anything that happens in Africa or Mexico or place that like United States deems is unsafe. You just have to put this ugly yellow filter over everything. It's not even good to look at, and somehow cost, where's that number again? $160 million or something? Ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have a question. Now I kind of like, it's kind of coming back to me now. What's Matthew McConaughey's motivation to save the world? At the beginning, we just find him to be a treasure hunter, right? Like, that's his main motivation. He wants treasure. He wants to find this ironclad in the Sahara Desert because has a coin in it, like one coin. But we find out later on that there's millions of coins. So that's his motivation, greed. Why does he care about the tribes? Why does he care about Africa? Why does he want to stop this French billionaire that's doing nuclear waste? Like, why? What are his motivations for that?
4 simple words: William H. Macy's boat that they blew up, and he wants his vengeance.
See, that boat is critical. I don't know why they introduced this other thing about another boat with like the Civil War, because who gives a shit, right? About pleasure yachts.
Pleasure yachts. That's the only other reason that he's doing any of this, because Penelope Cruz is interested in it, so that's why he's interested in it. He's just kind of a smarmy, gross, creepy dude who's just like, all right, even though he doesn't say all right or show his nipples. Ridiculous.
Was this the era where we were actually hinting at trilogies? Do you think initially that they wanted to lead up to having a trilogy, to having multiple movies out of this, and then someone just said, no, we can't do that? So like, fine, we're putting all of our movies into this one, and that's what you're getting.
No, this is the thing. They wanted a trilogy. They wanted to make all 80 of these movies. Cyclops, Raising the Titanic, Looking for Atlantis, all of these stupid things. But that's
It's a real shame they never made Night Probe.
Yeah, I want to know more about Night Probe. Raising Titanic, who gives a shit? I want to know about Probe.
Yeah, they basically just wanted to put all of these things and make a huge like movie franchise, I assume. And then because this movie did so very poorly, it never happened.
So they just
But they never actually set up a sequel. Like, it is done at the end of this. They even kill. They could have even left one string hanging with the bad guy, but they kill him too. So there's literally nothing left. All the bad guys are dead, other than the fact that our protagonists are still alive. There's no hint that he doesn't find like another coin, like, here we go again, or something like that. It really is done at the end of this movie. Not to say they couldn't just start it up in the with the new one with just these same characters, but they didn't set it up.
But you got closure with this.
It's not like Back to the Future 2 where they like literally show some of Back to the Future 3 at the end of the movie. Which we should totally do one of these days.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's safe to say they pulled a J.J. Abrams with this, and they did a Star Wars Episode 9 where they just started throwing things in, seeing what would stick, and then the movie's over and there's nowhere to go. They're just kind of done. Also, like, bad direction, not a good storyteller. So, after all this, I think we're finally ready to hear closing statements. Matt.
Okay. I mean, what else could be said about this dump heap of a movie? I'm so confused. I feel like I say that every week. I'm so confused about this stupid trash heap of a movie. There are like 10 different plots happening, and none of them are good. I wouldn't watch a single movie about a single one of these plots. I don't care about Dirk Pitt and his special leads buddy, and nor should you. Don't waste your time. To the judge, the beautiful and voluptuous judge and jury, don't waste your time with this movie. It's dumb.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No. Thank
Thank
you. Dylan.
Thank you.
You know, I keep hearing about how complicated the plot was and how two parallel stories run alongside each other ad infinitum. But like, what would you call the Lord of the Rings then if you had to watch them? Would you bitch about how the fucking hobbits go one direction and the other half of the fellowship goes? That's exactly what happens in half of the movie. So obviously that's not the sign of a bad movie.
Yeah, that's a fucking shitty movie.
What?
Right? It's a terrible movie.
You take that back right now.
Only one thing can happen in films. Otherwise, I just can't keep it in my head.
What would happen if there wasn't a Danny plotline and a separate John plotline? They eventually converge because that's what cool, epic, massive stories like this, that's what they do. They have so much going on that they have to have parallel narratives running, and they only converge later in time. It's the mark of where Clive Cussler's writing is at, you know. Top of the pile with George R. R. Martin and J.R.R. Tolkien. All the RRs, he's up there. And J.K.R.R. Rowling.
Look, I'm a simple
How do you
man.
feel about R.L. Stein?
How do I?
R.R.L. Stein, top of the pile. He was so good, he had you choosing how the story would go. Kind of like J.J. Abrams. Way before Abrams.
Bold. That is bold.
So, if you're not afraid of complicated stories, watch this movie. Sahara.
Sahara.
Sahara. Sorry.
I think that's everything. I think we're ready to deliver a verdict. Now, you guys sit there and do nothing while us beautiful people talk about what's going on in this movie. Okay, guys, break it down with me here. What in the actual fuck is going on in this film?
I got they went on an adventure, and there are some side adventures, and they found the boat.
Well,
And they got the gold.
Look,
that's what I heard.
I'm satisfied that they found the boat. Like that is important to me. I'm glad that it came through because that was the first plot point, and that is the only thing I can carry through throughout the entire film. I don't care about people getting poisoned. I don't care about child soldiers. I don't care about Matthew McConaughey's nipples. I don't care about any of it. I just care about him getting his boat back. And really, he got the boat back in the movie, so this must be good, right? I can go deliver the verdict?
Yeah, I think it delivered on that promise.
But
It delivered that promise to us.
The thing is, like, I watched the trailer before our discussion, and that's what it portrays. It portrays Matthew McConaughey doing kick-ass stunts, blowing up boats, getting some coins, getting the girl. But I'm confused because we're talking about a French billionaire with nuclear waste bleeding into different tribes, and we have civil wars, and the end of the world.
That's all the side plots, Adam. That's just the side.
But they sound pretty important, no? Is that?
I don't know. All I know is they got to the boat, and they got a new boat.
Adam,
and they got
I could not give less of a shit about people getting poisoned, about nuclear waste, about the Civil War. All I care about is pleasure yachts and what people are doing with those in a movie. I've already made up my mind. I made up my mind 40 minutes ago. But I don't know about the jury. If they're ready, we can go. Jury, what say you? Okay, everybody say, I'm going to see this movie or I'm not going to see this movie on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to go see
I'm
this
not
movie.
going to see
not
this
going to
movie.
see this movie.
We're all in agreement.
Yes.
All right. Well, I take my victory and
What?
thank you for voting the way you did.
What?
I'm so sorry, but we all said the other thing that means that you lose. Nobody wants to watch Sahara. There's a reason why this movie fucking flopped and lost $1 bajillion. There's a reason why Breck Eisner never worked in Hollywood again for another 5 years, despite having one of the most powerful father figures and connections in the entire business. Anyways, that concludes 2005 Sahara. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Closing statements from me. Watch True Detective Season 3 because it's pretty good. Anybody else?
Cool.
Watch The Last Witch Hunter.
You said-
It doubled its money.
Yeah, I really thought we were watching a rom-com. That's why I was for Sahara, and it wasn't one. So I'm going to recommend watching Matthew McConaughey's other rom-com, such as Failure to Launch.
Bullshit.
Well, I'm going to recommend watching Night Probe as soon as they decide to make that movie. Until then, go check out Fool's Gold, starring Matthew McConaughey.
Oh.
And I'll say you should watch The Wedding Planner, also starring Matthew McConaughey.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week. And then the outro music plays. With that, the court is adjourned. Come back next time for a new trial with new litigants in the never-ending parade of schlock that is Grindhouse Courthouse. Motherfuckers.